Welcome back to this series of walkthrough tutorials for the Symphony series Brass by Soundiron. Now in this video we'll be looking at the legato. We've pretty much covered everything that there is to cover with the instruments and their articulation, so in this specific video I'm going to showcase the legato for each of the instruments. Now, with the legato patches, obviously I mentioned in a previous video that pseudo legato or scripted legato or not using legato at all is better for when you're using forte and triple forte brass that are mixing articulations like staccato and doing heavy parts. That's just the way brass works, and that's the way it's played in real life. Now the legato patches are a little smoother in this brass library. They're specifically designed for more soulful playing because that's really what brass players use legato for. All the heavy stuff you can get away with the scripted legato, it's fine. But this legato, if you're wondering why it's a little softer, that's because, like I said, in real life, the legato is captured at softer volumes, so it's good for the soulful playing. It's good if you want to add a soft part, if there's a sort of a drop in dynamics in an orchestral song, or if you're doing a brass a specific composition that only has brass and you want to hear the legato in it. So obviously that's why all of the solo and the ensemble brass legato is significantly a little softer than the real heavy brass articulations you get with just the natural sustains and pseudo legato. Now, let's start off right off the bat. We'll have a look at the trumpet legato. This is the solo trumpet. A nice crossfade through all the dynamics there. Really nice soulful trumpet. So as you can hear, that's not something that you would use in a massive brass section where there's a lot of instruments, the strings are on and the brass is belting it. A player wouldn't really do that because you wouldn't even hear the person in the stage. So again, legato is very specific for brass. When it comes to brass, legato is reserved for those softer playing styles. So now we'll move on to the ensemble trumpets. Now the ensemble trumpets have a varying degree of legato intensity. They've got forte, mezzo forte and pianissimo. Now at forte the legato is a bit more blurred, a bit more hard to tell because obviously they're playing louder, and this basically proves what I was saying before, how when you're playing louder, it's really hard to hit legato notes properly on brass. So what I do is I stick with the mezzo forte legato, and that works really well. Now, if you notice you're hearing that brr, that rip up, that is because we're using flip legato. Now, there was two different legato styles recorded for the ensemble trumpets and trombones, and that was the sort of ripping slide up legato and the natural slur legato. So this is great. You can key switch, or not really key switch, but you can MIDI learn the flip and slur to a slider, so you can change it, move your slider, move it to flip and slur, and switch between the two. So then when you're playing solo brass passages, especially with the trumpets and trombones, you can switch between the natural slurred legato and the flip for when you want more of an accent. So really nice performance there, and it's great that you get those two types of legatos for the trumpets and trombones because you can create more emotional passages like that. Now we'll move on to the trombone solo legato. Really beautiful, soft, mellow tone there. And we'll have a look at the Trombones Ensemble Legato, which also includes the 2 legato types. And as you can see there, I've decided to stick to the pianissimo legato because the harder they play, the less defined the legato transitions become. So best to stick to the way they would do it in real life and play the legato passages with the pianissimo, and it sounds great. Now for the first and second horns, we have the true legato. I'll let you have a listen to that. Nice, beautiful singing tone there. And also remember, with the legato, you can choose to increase the response or decrease it. And when it's at its lowest, you get the full slur of the legato. And if you increase it, you get a quicker legato. So if you kind of want to make the piece move a little faster, you can assign a fader to the response and make the legato move a bit quicker. Now, this is the more darker second horn. Nice mellow tone there. And now we'll move on to the horns ensemble legato. And again, I'm using the pianissimo legato because it's the most defined legato. All right, so as you can hear there, nice soulful legato that you can use during softer passages like, action movie or war movie. You've got that moment where you need the big ensemble horns to come in and play a soulful lyrical phrase. And obviously, legato was a lot harder to capture when you're doing 8 horns and 8 trombones and that sort of thing. So they did a really good job there. Now we'll move on to my favorite brass instrument, the tuba. Really nice, low, dark sound there. And then we'll move on to the ensemble tubas. Now, I've decided to go for the forte legato on this one because the tubas seem to, when you get higher up in the range, they get a little tighter, so they respond a bit better to that harder legato. Again, another reason why I love the tubas. So you can create a lot of really nice lyrical passages there. So as you can see, the legato works really well. Obviously for the core patches and the normal sustains, you've got your pseudo legato for when you want to do your harder playing and you need it to respond quicker, and you won't be using those legato transitions. And then when you back down and you get to a softer part of the song, then you just throw in the legato patches and you use it, and you've got a complete comprehensive collection of brass instruments that basically cover all of your needs. And again, the legato was played very well. They focused on that soulful, softer legato that we would play in real life in symphonic orchestras, and it just sounds great. It's really got a nice tone to it. It's got nice fluidity, and obviously the ability to change the tightness of those legato transitions helps as well if you're doing slightly quicker pieces. So that's it for the legato. Just wanted to do a short video to showcase those, seeing as I spent so much time showcasing all the other articulations, and to give you just a little tip on how legato is used with brass. It's different from strings and woodwinds. You don't need legato all the time. You only need it when you get down to those mezzo forte and pianissimo ranges, is when players start to use their legato. Because obviously brass instruments react different and they're usually played a lot harder, so it doesn't require legato at harder dynamics. So yeah, the next video I will be showing you a composition. I'll be chucking all of the brass instruments together. I'll be doing a lyrical legato section for you to hear how it works well together, and then I'll be pumping up and adding more instruments and eventually giving you a whole orchestral mix so I can show you how the brass fit in at low volumes and at higher volumes. And what I mean when I say that this brass library was recorded perfectly, it was recorded in the right environment, and you get the right crack. You never have to compress the brass or try to bring it forward in the mix. You can sit it in the background and it'll still be defined. So I'll see you in that video, and I'll check you later.